Hello, my name is Kevin Probst, and I'm coming to you this evening from my back porch in LaGrange, Georgia. And we are experiencing Indian summer here, and today it reached temperatures of 85 degrees on this 26th day of October in 2024. Unusually warm for this time of the year in this part of the country. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and how our world has changed since we experienced that traumatic event. While the world was still suffering under the onslaught of COVID-19, Klause Schwab of the World Economic Forum tried to sell us a bill of goods. He said the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect and reimagine and reset our world. Well, just what was it that Klause Schwab was seeing through that narrow window of his? Shortly after 8 a.m. on September 11, 2001, terrorists launched an attack on the Twin Towers in New York City. Americans watched the unfolding of the assault, and many wept as they vowed to each other that they would never forget. The impact of that event changed American lives forever. And now, nearly 20 years later, Americans experience another attack that changed their lives forever. An invisible virus rapidly circled the globe, and Americans were instructed to mask up and sequester in their homes until further notice. By mid-March, my children were homeschooled, as well as home-churched. I saw members of my community paralyzed with fear. Almost 4 years later, I occasionally see someone wearing a mask while driving alone in their vehicle, believing that they need protection from an invisible predator. The fear is long-lasting, deeply embedded. Americans, in search of someone to save them, deified their government. I witnessed a near unanimous willingness to comply with every and any government mandate. The CDC and Anthony Fauci and the WHO and governors and mayors seemed intoxicated with the vast amount of power that they were given to control large populations of people. And we were all reminded of man's fragility and how susceptible we are to death. And many replaced "in God we trust" with "in government we trust." While the majority of us saw COVID-19 as a deadly and devastating virus with the potential to cause the death of millions and bring havoc to our society, others saw it as an opportunity to increase wealth and maximize power. Knowing that eventually the virus would be contained either by vaccine or natural immunity, these opportunists sought ways to retain the power that they had acquired. We began to hear much about the Center for Disease Control and wondered if they were really about controlling diseases or simply controlling human behavior. We began to pay close attention to the World Economic Forum and its leader, Klause Schwab, especially when he announced to the world the intent of the World Economic Forum to reflect, imagine, and reset our world. Thoughtful people wondered just what was it these powerful unelected officials at the World Economic Forum meant when they proclaimed their goal to reset the world. Klause Schwab made his post-COVID announcement on the World Economic Forum website, indicating that the citizens of the world will own nothing and be happy. Even though history has shown that all those who have tried to install such a socialist system of governance have failed. This group of neo-Marxists believe they can make it successful. Their arrogance and hubris is astonishing. Were the European serfs of early centuries who owned nothing and had no rights, were they happy? Were the slaves living on the southern plantations of early America, who were denied basic human rights and owned nothing, were they happy? It is quite a stretch to make an argument that failure to own property will bring great happiness. Someone will own something, and maybe they will own everything. An oligarchy of new leaders and powerful and privileged corporations will own everything that the common peasants and plebeians used to own. Happiness may be their intent, but misery and social disruption will be the result. A small oligarchy will attempt to make all the rules and acquire the power to enforce those rules. Global businesses will make the rule makers excessively wealthy when they realize how easily they can be bought. This is fascism at its worst, and deep corruption is sure to flourish. There's 3 giant corporations, Robert F. Kennedy said, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, which collectively own each other. But they also own 89% of the S&P 500. They own everything, and they're now deciding to buy every single family home in America. For a deeper understanding of Schwab's stakeholder capitalism and the social justice aspect of the Great Reset and the role of ESG scores for large financial corporations, especially BlackRock, please read What is the Great Reset by Michael Rechtenwald. Ida Auken, a member of Denmark's parliament, attempted to sell the globalist dream by writing an article for the World Economic Forum. In that article, she wrote this: "Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say, our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes." And yet she proclaims that she will certainly be happy. Our first president had some thoughts about private property. George Washington wrote, "Freedom and property rights are inseparable. You can't have one without the other." Hear the words of Thomas Sowell. If there's any lesson in the history of ideas, it is that good intentions tell you nothing about the actual consequences. The dream of Karl Marx was that no one would own private property. All property would be collectively owned. We would become one big happy family, sharing equally all that we have with all others. It is a deception. There's never been a whole population collectively owning anything. Someone or some group claims ownership, and through this claim, they empower themselves over the rest of humanity. Karl Marx said, "We will all own everything and be happy." Klause Schwab is saying, "We will all own nothing and be happy." Both propose a system that denies individuals the right to own property, thus satisfying the power-mongering elite group of extremely wealthy globalists whose lust for power has no limits. If COVID taught us anything, it revealed to us the condescending attitudes of the rich and powerful toward the common man. For a deeper delve into how collectivism and the denial of individual rights have always been destructive to humanity, please watch David and Sarah's interview with Douglas Kruger. The goal of the Great Reset is to default individual ownership to zero and make everyone dependent upon the compassion of a government which will mercifully step in and provide all of our needs to ensure our happiness. And there is no guarantee regarding any of our wants. When large numbers of people are relegated to the welfare rolls of any state, social deterioration takes place. Incentive is destroyed. The effect on the family is detrimental, and serious crime always increases because the sinful, greedy nature of man will never be satisfied when a glass ceiling limits his ability to attain more than what others have acquired. So what does the scripture say about ownership of private property? The Bible affirms our right to private property, provides for its protection in the 8th commandment given to Moses, "You shall not steal." Scripture teaches us that those who work to support themselves and their families are worthy of honor, but the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. While Marxism and the World Economic Forum promote an idealistic, utopian, man-made dream, its failure is guaranteed because of the sinful nature of selfish men. Jesus Christ offers a spiritual and heavenly kingdom where sin will be eternally conquered and peace and happiness assured based on the holiness and righteousness of a loving God. In the kingdom yet to come, the King will own everything, and he will share freely and generously with all of his children. In that sinless world where there is no greed, we will all own nothing and be happy. Thank you so much for listening.